paycheck on time always? I guess you're married.
Was I paid on time?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Why Mary, which is you, didn't CC Joe or Rich concerning draw or funding matters?
I don't know if I had any emails about the funding matters. The sworn construction statements from the bank, I just printed them off and gave them to them.
What is your full responsibilities and job title?
Bookkeeper, I did the payroll and accounts payable and receivable, job costing and general ledger entries. Also prepared lien waivers. That was it.
What's your job title?
Bookkeeper.
Did you ever make any attempts to have your computer repaired or the information from the hard drive retrieved?
Oh, yes, we had an IT person look at it, yes, because I'm sure you all know what a pain that is when your computer dies.
Additionally, why would the emails no longer be stored in your email account, not connected to your computer?
That I don't know. I don't know if it was on the C drive, the hard drive of the computer. I don't know where they store emails, on your computer. I don't get that information.
All right. Any follow-up from the lawyers?
I do if you don't.
Well, let's see, Mr. Woodward does.
Oh, okay.
No, we have no questions, Your Honor.
Just very briefly, Mary, are you aware of any emails that would be missing from the records that are produced and that you have reviewed in this matter?
No, I'm not aware.
Okay, so missing emails just isn't an issue here, as far as you know.
I'm going to object. It's leading to the front of witness. You can't lead the witness. 611, Your Honor. Rule 611.
Leading
Well,
is
as far
permitted
as
to
she
develop
knows, there have
testimony.
been missing emails an issue. As far as she knows. Overruled.
Are missing emails an issue here?
No.
Thank you.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Thank you, ma'am. You may step down. Next witness.
Bill Keel.
Here we stand, be sworn, sir. You solemnly swear affirm to hello truth and nothing but the truth to the best of your knowledge, so help you God? I do. Please be seated.
Good morning, Mr. Keel.
Good morning.
Can we get your name up for the record?
No, you have not.
Can you please state that for the record?
Joseph Michael Keel,
By whom are you presently employed?
Hawk Enterprises,
That's the company owned by Johanna Plank, correct?
correct.
And how long have you been so employed?
Since 2009,
In what capacity?
I work in their safety department.
Is that a managerial position?
I would say yes.
By whom were you employed prior to that?
Hawk Inc.
The general contractor on the city center project, correct?
Yes.
And when did you commence employment there?
I believe that was 2004.
And prior to that, by whom were you employed?
Employed by Hawk Enterprises again.
And how long were you at Hawk Enterprises before you went to Hawk?
About 3 years.
Now, did Richard Plank, during your first employment with Hawk Enterprises, have a position within that company?
I don't know if he did or not.
You don't recall him working there during that time period?
I recall seeing him in and out, but I didn't spend much time in the office.
And of course, his wife, Johanna, is the owner, worked there, correct?
Correct.
And then their daughter, Rachel, worked there, correct?
I remember seeing her there, yes.
Do they have any other children?
Yes, I believe they have 2 other.
And who are they?
I believe they have a boy, Rick, and another boy, Reese.
Boy, Rick. Is his name Richard?
Yes.
Short to Rick.
Yes.
Did either one of them work at Hawk Enterprises, the best that you can recall?
I remember seeing both of them there. If I remember right, it was during their school days. They'd be there in the summer, mowing the lawn and picking up trash. And
Did either one of those sons work for Hawk or Bulldog Masonry?
not that I recall.
It's my understanding that when you went to work for Hawk in 2004, roughly that time period, you were overseeing bidding on Hawk's behalf as a general contractor, correct?
Correct.
And you were also in charge of oversight of construction, correct?
Correct.
Now, the bidding process, let's just talk about that for a little bit. The first thing you need to do as a general contractor is determine which trades you need to hire, right?
Correct.
And for instance, you need someone to plow the ground, excavate the ground, correct?
Correct.
You need someone to dig a hole, correct? If you're going to have a basement or even for footings, you need to dig, correct?
Correct.
So you need an excavator, right?
Correct.
Then you need someone to lay the footers down, correct?
Correct.
And then you need someone to put in the underground plumbing and electric, correct?
Correct.
And then you need someone to build the foundation walls, right?
Correct.
And then you need someone to pour the floors, right?
Correct.
And then at that point you can start vertical construction, true?
You can continue construction, true?
Yeah. So, you were in charge of lining up the various subcontractors to perform all these various tasks. Isn't that true?
Correct.
And then what you would do is, based upon the subcontractors that you knew of, you would send out requests to bid, right?
Correct.
And you did that to multiple companies for each particular trade, right?
Correct.
And you did that with the aid of Mr. Plank?
He had knowledge of what I was doing, yes.
And when you send out the request for bid to a subcontractor, do you send them the plans?
Yes.
Because they don't know what to bid if they don't know what they're building, right?
Correct.
And those are the plans and specifications as given to you ad hoc from the city center, correct?
Correct.
That were prepared by their architect, correct?
Correct.
And then you would receive these bids back, I take it, is that true?
Yes.
And you got several bids for each of the trades except for the masonry contract, is that right?
Yes.
Because the masonry contract was going to be performed by Hawk, true?
True.
And then I take it you reviewed all these bids and then awarded the successful bidder for each particular trade, right?
Correct.
And who reviewed those bids to decide which ones should get the bid?
I did.
And did you unilaterally make that decision?
Yes.
Once the bid was accepted, you would then send out a contract, correct?
Correct.
And did you send out the same contract to each and every subcontractor?
Yes.
And did you require that that subcontract be signed?
Yes.
And did you have a signed contract for each and every subcontractor?
I believe we did, yes.
Did what was Rex Construction? What was their job?
Rex Construction did the site work.
Did they have a subcontract?
That Rex Construction started that project before I got involved.
Yeah, that wasn't my question. My question was, did they have a subcontract?
I don't know.
So it's then not a true statement that every subcontractor had a contract, correct?
For the ones that I dealt with, they did have one, yes.
I'm not limiting it to the ones that you dealt with. I'm saying for every subcontractor on the city center complex site, did each and every subcontractor have a subcontract?
To my knowledge, yes.
Except for Rex.
I haven't seen one for Rex. I don't know if there is one or not.
Well, your company, I should say City Center Complex, and Hawk Construction produced 6,377 pages of discovery. And I'm not aware of a subcontract in there for Rex Construction, are you?
I don't know if I reviewed all those pages, but I have not seen one.
And who better than you would be able to determine if one exists?
Mr. Plank?
Has he ever shown you a copy of a subcontract with Rex Construction?
Not to my knowledge.
So after all the successful bids are brought in, at that point, the work begins, correct?
Yes.
And then the first thing we do is the site work, that is, we excavate the ground, true?
Yes.
And that's what Rex Construction did, correct?
Yes.
And then you go do the underground, things that were required underground, correct?
Yes.
That is, you had to tap into the sewer, is that right?
Yes.
You had to tap into the water lines, correct?
Yes.
You had to hook up to NIPSCO, so you had electric to the job site, correct?
Yes.
And those are all preliminary things, aren't they?
I wouldn't call them preliminary.
Well, preliminary to actual physical building.
A lot of that can happen at the same time.
All right. Were you aware at the time you commenced job oversight what the zoning classification of the city center project was?
I don't remember what the numerical designation is now.
Well, wouldn't that be important to know before you bid out the job, whether you're doing residential or commercial construction?
I knew it was residential, commercial, and retail. I don't know what the exact designation for that is.
Do you have the red book in front of you? I'm going to try to limit my questions as near as possible to the red book for the first part of this, so we won't have to keep transferring back and forth, okay? Go to the second exhibit, Exhibit 34.
Okay?
You ever see that document before?
I may have.
Did you have a file in your office where you retained the plans and the specifications?
Yes.
Did you have a file in your office, or was there one kept pertaining to all the zoning issues?
It wasn't in my office, but I'm sure there was one somewhere.
If there were comments from the city concerning compliance with their ordinances that pertain to the construction, is that something you would have to be aware of?
Could you say that again, please?
I'm not sure I can. If the city sent correspondence to Hawk or City Center to ensure that in building the project, it remained in compliance with the ordinance and ordinances of the city, is that something that you would have to need to know to perform your job?
If it pertained to my job, yes.
Now, look at the first page, Exhibit 34, very first line. There was a petition filed for a site development plan, correct?
Yes.
And then apparently it specified office/retail and residential development. Do you see that?
Yes.
And then on the next page, under the comments, under the site plan corrections and additions, do you see that paragraph?
Yes.
About a third of the way down under the comments.
Yes.
It says parking lot layout dash commercial area. Which area was the commercial area? I'll show you Exhibit 100. show us on, I think we have a, pointer. It's up here. Can you point to the area that's the commercial area?
I don't recall ever having the designation
You have it backwards.
of there ever being the designation of any of this separation from commercial or retail or residential.
So when he's referring to the commercial area, are you saying that the city was wrong?
I'm saying I don't understand where he's referring to.
You don't understand what they're talking about.
No.
Wouldn't it be important for you as the person in charge of construction and administration of this job to know and be on the same page as the city when they're making comments to your plan?
It would be more important for the owner, which would be City Center.
Well, you were building it for City Center, correct?
That is correct.
And City Center didn't have any employees, did they?
Not to my knowledge.
So how was City Center going to deal with it if they didn't have anyone there to deal with it?
I imagine the owner of City Center would see it.
Which was the owner of Hop, correct?
Correct.
Look at the next line. No handicap spaces indicated in the commercial area. Again, you have no idea what he's talking about, do you?
No, sir.
So you couldn't have addressed this comment if you wanted to, could you?
No, sir.
The next area, condo area buildings, 7, 8, and 9. Do you see that?
I do.
Where's that? On the exhibit 100.
I believe 7, 8, and 9 were these over here.
That's totally separate and apart from the first phase, isn't it?
Yes.
And those were to be residential, weren't they?
I believe they were to have residential as well, yes.
Was there going to be any commercial development down here on 7, 8, and 9?
I don't know if there was or not. I don't know if those were all residential or if they were going to continue like the first phase.
When you began your job as project oversight, were you doing it for the whole job or just for a portion of it?
I only knew of the buildings and had blueprints for the buildings for the first portion.
Okay, now look to the next bullet. Based on the ordinance, the minimum spaces, blah, 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 for a retail area. You see that?
I do.
Where's the retail area?
Again, I have no designation there.
You don't know, right?
No,
So you don't have any idea what the city's talking about, correct?
No, sir.
Look at the next bullet point. Read that to yourself.
Okay.
Have you done so?
I am.
You know what they're talking about? Providing sidewalks from the condos to the retail area?
No, I can't really say that I do.
Before you commence building, I think we left out a step. And that step is you have to get permits, don't you?
Yes.
And those permits, they have to be posted, don't they? That's a job site.
Yes.
Take a look at Exhibit 36. You recognize that?
I do.
Was that a permit that was posted at the job site?
This is a building permit, yes.
Was it posted at the job site?
I would assume it was, yes.
Look at the fourth line down. It says 4: Do you see that?
I do.
Read it. What's it say? Out loud.
16-unit office building?
Where on this building permit does it talk about residential?
It doesn't.
Go to the next one, 37. This is a building permit for what? Look at the very top.
It's a foundation permit.
What's the fourth line? 4: Do you see that?
I see that.
Read it out loud.
It says office building.
Go to the next one. Another building permit, correct?
A foundation permit, yes.
You look at Exhibit 38, same as I?
I am.
Fourth line, 4: What does it read?
Office building.
Where does it say residential?
It doesn't appear on this page.
Go to Exhibit 39, the next one. What is this exhibit?
Appears to be a building permit.
Exhibit 39 does, correct?
Yes.
For what purpose?
It says office building.
How do you get these building permits? Do you just walk in and say, hey, give me a building permit?
Well, you have to take a drawing in, a specification sheet, let the city review it.
Do you have to fill out a form or application or something like that?
Yes.
Okay, go to Exhibit 41. Here. What is this document?
It appears to be an application for a building permit.
Who signed it?
I signed it.
Was you writing?
It appears to be, yes.
Go to the fifth category down where it says permit type. Do you see that?
No.
I approach the witness, Your Honor.
Yes.
Right here. Permit type. You see that?
Yes, I
Is
do.
there a box checked?
Yes, there
Where's the
is.
box?
Commercial.
What's next to it in handwriting?
16-unit office/business building.
Were you submitting an application for permit for a residence?
It doesn't appear in this one, no.
In fact, it wouldn't be appropriate to submit an application for a business building permit if you were actually going to use it as residential purposes, would it?
Well, I'm sure I got that right off the drawing from the architect. That's probably how he had the building labeled. And that was the same drawing that the city had, so the labeling stayed the same.
Well, you reviewed the drawings, correct?
I did.
You knew the intended uses, correct?
I knew what the options were for the building.
But it hadn't been set in stone yet, had it?
The building could have been made into anything.
Look at Exhibit 43. Are you there?
I am.
This is from Falk Design Group, correct?
Yes.
And Falk Design is the one who did the drawing that you just referred to. Is that right?
Correct.
And they're passing along good news as to building number 2, aren't they?
Yes.
That is, you have to get a release from the state before you can commence construction. True?
Yes.
And this is dated what date there at the top?
12/5/05.
So December 5th, 2005, this facsimile, it appears at the top it was sent out and received, correct?
Correct.
Do you remember receiving this?
I can't say that it stands out, but I would certainly received it.
Is this something that would be necessarily brought to your attention as the individual in charge of construction?
Yes.
Because you knew that you couldn't commence construction without this, correct?
I know all permits need to be in place, yes.
Look in the box on the right-hand side, second category down, occupancy classification. Do you see that? On the next page, I'm sorry. I'm on page 1963 of Exhibit 43.
Okay.
Do you see the occupancy classification?
Where did you? Oh, I see it. Yes.
And what are the two letters in there?
B and M.
What's B stand for?
I do not know.
Well, wouldn't it be important for you to know how the building was classified by the state of Indiana before you commenced construction?
I'm sure it's very possible that I had spoke to the architect for that, but I can't recall now what they were for.
B stands for business, doesn't it?
I don't know. I'll believe you.
What does M stand for?
I don't know.
It stands for merchant, doesn't it?
I don't know.
Would you agree with me that merchant and business are not residential?
I would agree with that.
Go back to Exhibit 35. it's the same type of release from the state, correct?
Yes.
And what is the occupancy classification in that release?
B and M.
And it's the same as the prior, correct?
The B and M, correct?
And if we go down a couple lines, it says project name, City Center Building Number 1, right?
Correct.
And if we go back to the exhibit 43, it was for City Center Building Number 2, wasn't it?
Correct.
So, at least based upon a review of this document, we know the classification as classified by the state of Indiana for those two buildings was B and M, whatever those might be. True?
Yes.
Did you ever notify the state that they had classified the buildings incorrectly?
I don't know, because I don't remember what I was told the B and the M meant.
I don't know. Does that mean I have no knowledge of ever having done that?
That's not what I said.
So you're saying maybe it's possible?
Anything is possible. This was a
That's
one-time.
right. Anything's possible. I'm trying to find out, what did you do? Do you have a recollection of advising the state of Indiana that they classified the buildings incorrectly?
I don't recall that, no.
And likewise, I'll withdraw that. Take a gander at Exhibit 42, if you would. You see that?
Yes.
Same type of release, correct?
Correct.
For which building?
Building 3.
What's the occupancy classification?
M and B.
No. And again, you don't know what that means, correct?
Correct.
You never corrected the state that you can recall, correct?
Correct.
And you're sitting here as the representative of City Center, aren't you?
I never worked for City Center, sir.
I know, but you've been sitting here at the table as a representative for the entire trial, have you not?
I have.
And you were designated as their corporate representative for purposes of this trial, correct?
Correct.
You sat here and listened to Mary Antonio testify, did you not? You heard her testify that all she did was input information on the sworn construction statement. Did you hear her say that?
Yes.
Is that true?
Yes.
That's all she did, correct?
That's correct.
Did you testify differently in your deposition?
What did I say in my deposition?
Didn't you say she prepared beginning to end? She put the numbers in?
Yes. What did you just ask me?
Was she taking the information and actually preparing the sworn construction statement? Or did you and Rich do that?
She would take the information that myself and Rich would give her, and she would fill out those sworn statements and send them off.
How did she know? Did you tell her what numbers to put in which boxes?
I didn't go box by box, but we would have the invoices.
Did you handwrite them out before you gave them to her?
No.
Well, how would she know what numbers to put in the boxes?
Now, if you have an invoice from, let's say, Lazaro, and I approve that invoice and hand it to her, Lazaro's name is on that sworn construction statement, so she'll put it next to Lazaro.
So she actually took the physical invoice, right? And the best that you can recall, she's the one that filled out the boxes. Is that true?
Yes.
So is it fair to say then that you personally never filled any of these sworn construction statements out in your own handwriting?
I can't say never.
Well, do you remember giving your deposition?
I do.
And do you remember that it was taken January 21st, 2013, just 3 months ago? You remember, yes?
I remember, yes.
Do you remember being sworn to tell the truth?
Yes.
Do you remember me asking you a series of questions?
Yes.
And do you remember me asking you, if you didn't understand one of my questions, that you should stop me and let me know that?
Yes.
Let me show you on page 57, line 5. I asked you the question. May I approach the witness?
Yes.
Question. Did you ever fill one of these out in your own handwriting? Do you remember that question?
I read the question. I'm sure you asked it.
And we were talking about the sworn construction statements. Okay.
I'm assuming we were, yes.
Well, do you recall me asking you about filling out the sworn construction statements in your own handwriting?
Yes.
And what was your answer?
I don't believe I ever did.
Now you think maybe you did today?
I've seen a lot more paperwork recently than I'd seen before that deposition.
So your memory's better today than it was 3 months ago. Is that right?
I was being prepared as a 30B6 under your direction, I believe, so I do have a little bit more knowledge than I did then.
No, we don't get to specify who the 30B6 representative is. You guys get to do that.
I understand, sir, but you asked for a 30B6, and
So now that you've had time to go back and go through documents and discuss things, now you have a better understanding than you did back in January. Is that
a
true?
little better. Didn't go through a lot, but some.
Who filled out the total contract column at the beginning of this one? The very first line after all the text.
That would have been Mary with the information I gave her.
Okay, what information did you give her?
Contracts?
You gave her the actual contract with the contractors.
Yes, to take the numbers off of them.
Now, how'd she get the one for Rex Construction?
I wouldn't know. I didn't have that one.
Do you know how she got it?
No, I do not.
It just didn't materialize out of thin air, did it?
I wouldn't think so.
What other line items did she not get from you?
Any of them that pertain to what they call soft costs, the closing costs and monies previously spent, I had nothing to do with that when those were filled out.
Where would you get that from?
Mr. Plank.
Did you overhear Mr. Plank giving her those numbers?
Not that I recall.
Did you review the sworn construction statements after they were completed?
Yes.
How were you able to determine if they were accurate if you didn't know where the numbers came from?
I trusted Mr. Plank.
Take a look at Exhibit 83. Are you there?
Yes.
What is that?
It's from C&B Steel. Looks like bid for City Center.
And what did they do for City Center?
The structural steel.
And what was their bid?
$88,000 per building.
Now, if we go back on Exhibit 84, it looks like there was a change to that number. Go to the next tab, 84.
Yes.
And there it shows a contract price of $85,000.
Correct.
Was there a $3,000 credit for steel railings? Do you remember something like that?
I can't recall exactly what it was for.
But somehow it changed from $88,000 to $85,000.
Yes, yes.
And now it goes up to by $142,000, right?
Yes.
Is that per building?
I don't recall.
No. How are we to know?
Is there any more documentation?
This is your document, so honest. And there's a change order behind that. Change order 2 for another $5,540. There's a contract agreement behind that for $139,200. One behind that on page 4491 for $85,000 times 3. What was C&D's contract? Let me help you out. Go to the next exhibit. Exhibit 85. What's exhibit 85?
Appears to be a subcontract,
For whom?
Hawk and C&B Steel.
Same subcontractor we were just looking at, correct?
Yes.
Go to page 4462. Near the end of that document. What was the total base bid?
$88,000.
Was that per building or for the whole project?
I'm going to say from what we just read prior, it was per building.
So we know in the first phase, as far as construction was concerned, that if third was funding, we should take that number and multiply it by 4, correct?
Yes.
Well, if my math is correct, that should be roughly $352,000, but don't we have to take off $12,000 for the $3,000 credit for the steel railings?
If that's what it was for, then yes.
So that would leave us with $340,000, correct? Is that right? Is my math correct? 340?
Yes.
Now, can you explain to me why on draw number 2, the total contract for C&B Steel is $468,000?
If I could look back at their bid,
Take your time.
I don't remember which tab that was.
It's the one right before that.
Their $88,000 was based on 6 buildings.
Per building, right?
Yes.
But we're only doing 4 in this phase, isn't that right?
Yes.
So 88,000 times 6. Well, that's $528,000, so that couldn't be it, could it?
minus the 3,000 per building deduct, correct?
Yeah, that'd be 510,000 for 6 buildings, I did that for you. So that wouldn't be right either, would it?
Doesn't appear to be, no.
Can you offer this jury any explanation why on draw number 2, City Center and Hawk, as its general contractor, put a figure of $468,000 for structural steel from C&D, when its contract for 6 buildings was $510,000, and for 4 buildings was only $340,000.
I don't know what changes there were, I can't see them here.
Who would know better than you?
Mr. Woodward probably knowing, but again, this was a lot of years ago.
Well, you spent time preparing for your testimony today, didn't you?
I did.
And you knew you were going to be called to testify concerning the contracts, correct?
Whatever you were going to ask me, sir, that's why I'm here.
I mean, you lived and died with this project from 2004, 2005, through roughly 2007, correct?
Correct.
Look at Exhibit 87. Look at the next subcontract. You recognize that?
I do.
What is it?
Subcontract with Corellis Roofing.
Turn to page 4293 of that exhibit. Of Exhibit 87. Does it show a base bid amount?
It does.
What's that amount?
$78,286.
Is that per building?
I believe it was, yes.
And both on page 4293 and 4294, Exhibit D, it shows $78,286 per building, correct?
Yes.
So if we put 78,286 times 4, I get $313,144. Assuming my calculator did that correctly. That'd be about right. 4 times 80,000 would be 320, so it's going to be a little less than that, right? Is that right? Can you explain to the jury why, on draw number 2, the total contract for this subcontractor, Corellis, would be listed at $422,500?
What would it be times 6 buildings?
Well, let's see. If I divide that by 4, we'll get back to the base and multiply that times 6. 469,716. So times 6 is 469,716, and I think times 4 was 313,400 or something like that. So it doesn't fall roughly in the middle. Do you have any idea how that $422,500 figure came up with? It was arrived at, I should say.
Not off the top of my head, no.
What would it take for you to determine how that number was arrived at?
I'll probably go back and have conversations with Pete Corellis.
So that is to say, as we sit here today, you can offer absolutely no explanation, correct?
Correct.
Would you agree with me that if that figure is overstated by approximately $90,000, that the total cost of the project was overstated by $90,000?
If that were the case, yes.
Will you also agree with me that if the total contract stated by C&D Steel was in fact $340,000, that the total cost of the project was again overstated by roughly $200,000? Sorry, about $150,000.
If that were true, yes.
Can you tell us whether or not the contract was overstated by those amounts as you sit here today?
The numbers that you showed me, it appears as such, but there was a lot that went into those, just getting those numbers.
There is a lot that goes into getting those numbers, isn't there?
Correct.
And that is why when a bank is funding a loan, they need to know everything that's going into those numbers, don't they?
I would think they would, yes.
That is, because unless they have the accurate numbers, there's no way to determine what the total project cost is there?
Makes sense.
And they have to keep the loan in balance, don't they? I mean, you received numerous emails trying to get the loan in balance, didn't you?
From what little bit I know about the banking,
Didn't you think it would have been important to provide the bank with the information that was accurate as to the total contract cost so that they could keep the loan in balance? Didn't you think that to be the case?
to my knowledge, they had that.
Well, how did they get these changes from the total contract price? How would they have gotten that?
They would have had the same documents that I had.
Well, you can offer no explanation as the project manager. How could they possibly do it? Any idea what documents they could piece together?
I don't know. I don't know what they had.
All right. Let's look at Exhibit A6. You know when you're there. Okay. Second page, 4387. First of all, what is this Exhibit 86?
Appears to be a proposal from South Lake Electrical Contracting.
Were they the initial electrical contractor on this job?
Yes.
And what was their proposal? Looking at the bottom, 4387, it looks like $100,000. Do you see that?
Yes.
$100,000 for what?
Do the electrical in one of the buildings.
So that was a per building number?
I'm thinking this had to be for more than that.
You think the per building number was less than that?
I didn't know if there was any underground involved in that. Doesn't appear to be.
Let me ask you another question, because at some point, South Lake was released from their contract, is that true?
Yes.
And then Hawk Enterprises came in, is that right?
Yes.
And then on draw number 6, dated May 12, 2006, they're showing a total contract price for Hawk Enterprises for electric of $600,000. Do you remember that?
You read it to me. I do. Yes.
I think I read it accurately. So that's $600,000. If this is $100,000 for one building, and maybe something else, $600,000, would that be for 6 buildings?
Sir, this gentleman was taken off the project because he could not perform his work for that.
Yeah. But that's not my question.
He way underbid it.
He way underbid it.
Yes.
Okay, well, that would be a good thing from the general contractor's part, wouldn't it?
But not when he can't finish.
So the $600,000 that Hawk Enterprises bid, was that for 4 buildings?
I would have to look at their contract.
Never seen a contract, have you?
I don't recall. I'm assuming we have one.
You remember seeing it?
can't say I did or I didn't.
Well, you wouldn't get a contract for more than 6 buildings from them, would you?
I wouldn't see why.
Okay. So if they're showing on the sworn construction statement at $600,000, that would either be $100,000 each for 6 buildings or $150,000 each for 4 buildings, correct?
Correct.
Do you have any memory difference from that?
No.
Since we don't have a contract, we have to assume one or the other is true, right?
Correct.
So why then, if I go back to draw number 2, would it show a total contract price for South Lake Electric of $1,002,500?
I don't know why I would say that.
That would be $250,000 per building for 4 buildings, correct?
Yes,
I thought you said they underbid the project.
they did.
Well, how could they underbid the project if Enterprises could do for $600,000 what they were going to do for $1 million?
I was just understanding, my statement was off this $100,000 I saw in the proposal.
Well, what do you recall as we sit here? Was it $1 million or was it $400,000?
I don't recall because he was on the job for such a short time.
Explain to me again how they underbid the job for $1 million.
I was stating off of this $100,000
Okay, forget that.
per job.
Yeah, forget that.
I made my statement off of this.
All right, let's set that aside.
Okay.
Let's go off the sworn.
Okay.
How did they underbid the project for over $1 million?
I don't object to foundation. I don't think there's been any testimony that they bid $1 million. That was the estimate of total electrical and the sworn.
Well, okay, we can explore that a little bit. That $1 million figure on the sworn construction statement, draw number 2, what was included in that?
Did I see draw number 2?
Sure. Exhibit
In the black book.
in the black book, looks like exhibit 27, and I'm on the first page, number 18, base stamp. And if you go down to electric, South Lake Electric, $1,002,500. See that?
Yes, sir.
All right, now. Where'd that number come from?
I honestly don't know.
This is a number that Mary put in that document, correct?
She would put it in, yes.
Based upon a contract that you gave her, correct?
Should have been, yes.
Where's the contract for $1,002,500?
I don't see it, I don't know.
Is it possible that Mary, I mean, we said anything's possible, right?
Absolutely.
Based upon what you have in front of you, is that number correct?
From what I see, no.
Is it too high or is it too low?
I'll say it's a little high.
Let's look at another. Look at Exhibit 88. There we go. Keep that drawer number 2 open right there. We'll just slide it off to the side in case you have to refer to it. All right? I don't think you'll have to. Are you to Exhibit 88?
Yes.
What is this?
The contract agreement with Lazaro,
And what do they do?
the glass and doors.
Go to page 4595 of that Exhibit 88. In the red book.
If you give me the regular page number, they're going on the bottom here.
Um,
You have like a 1 through 10 number on there too.
Oh, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, it would be number 10. Oh, I'm sorry, it's actually number 8. I think it's the 10th page, that's number 8. Here, you guys, right there. There's the one with the breakout of the cost. See that?
Yes.
What was the total for 6 buildings?
$372,480.
$372,480. Now, go to draw number 2, right up there. What's the total contract price for Lazaro for glass and windows, doors?
$468,652.
468. What was 468?
652.
652. How did it go from 372,480 for 6 buildings to 468,652 for 4?
And I was just looking to see if he had that if that was for 6 buildings or for 4. The 6 buildings was the
352.
the 372.
Yeah, that was for 6. It says right there, 6 buildings, right?
Yes, it does.
Okay. And then the 468. What's that for?
I don't know.
Calculator on it, yeah. There's just no way to make a chart, is there?
Doesn't appear to be.
As Vice President, Bach Inc., the LLC, were they an Inc. or LLC at the time? So as Vice President of Bach Inc., in charge of oversight of the bidding and construction, can you offer any explanation how these numbers were arrived at on this sworn construction statement, draw number 2?
There's some possibilities. I have to look through and see. I know at the beginning there was talk of Hawk as general contractor. There is a percentage that's commonly put on your subcontractors that's your payment as a general contractor.
Well, there's a separate line item for profit and overhead, isn't there?
Yes,
That's blank on draw number 2, isn't it?
that's correct.
And it would just seem logical that if you were going to include profit and overhead in a contract price, then it would be equal pro rata among all the subcontractors, wouldn't it?
I wouldn't say it would always be completely equal. Some contractors require a little more attention to detail than others.
So, when those numbers were put down as total contract, did you understand that to mean the contract from that subcontractor?
I would assume yes.
Now, for each of these draws, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, you would receive invoices, correct?
Yes.
You would verify the work was done, correct?
Yes.
That was part of your job duties, true?
Yes.
And then you would submit the invoices to Mary to
Yes.
prepare the swarm, correct? Did you know, back when you were doing this function and submitting the invoices, what the total contract was for each subcontractor?
Not off the top of my head, I would think.
Well, but my question is, did you know then what you don't know now?
Ask me again, please.
At the time that you were submitting the invoices to Mary, were you aware of the total contract number for each and every subcontractor?
Well, I'm sure I knew what it was if I saw it written down. Yes, it's something that didn't run through my head on a daily basis.
But there was something that you could refer to refresh your memory so that you knew exactly what the total contract price was back then. True?
Yes.
But as we sit here today, we just don't know, do we?
Don't know what.
What the total contract price was for the various subcontractors.
I don't. There was more to it apparently, and I don't have it in front of me to see what it was.
Now, City Center, they didn't have an office, did they?
No.
No personnel other than Mr. Plank, perhaps, correct?
Yes.
Did you ever discuss the loan documents with him?
No.
Were you present at bank meetings between him and various personnel at the bank?
Just towards the very end.
Did any financial discussions take place at those meetings?
Some did, yes.
Do you recall, as you sit here today, what those discussions consisted of?
Not really, because the only reason Mr. Plank had me go is if there was any questions about construction,
That is basically, when they started talking about business matters, you just tuned out, didn't you?
for the most part.
And the same would be true if they had any discussions regarding leases, you just kind of tuned that out, right?
Yes.
Did you ever notarize any of these sworn construction statements before they were signed?
I saw a couple that I did, yes.
That is, you notarized that someone had signed in your presence before that person ever signed, isn't that true?
There's an explanation that goes with that.
Well, I understand, but isn't that true that that's what you did?
Yes.
Do you know if, in regards to those subcontracts that we just talked about, if the overhead and profit was actually part of that subcontract price?
I'm thinking that it was, yes.
So, trying to figure out how this would work mathematically, because if they submit an invoice, it's for a set amount, correct?
Yes.
And then you would have to determine whether or not they were entitled to that set amount based upon the percentage of work that's been completed, correct?
Yes.
That means figure out what percent was completed, you'd have to back out the profit from their contract price, correct?
It's not quite that detailed when you look at the work done compared to an invoice.
Well, if a contract for $350,000 and you show it on the sworn for $450,000, you have to know how much to back out to figure out what portion of their contract is complete, right?
Yes.
So you had to necessarily know before you approved the invoices how much of their contract was profit and how much was the actual contract. Isn't that right?
Yes.
As you sit here today, though, you can't tell us, can you?
No, I do.
Take a look at, is that Exhibit 27? We've been looking at this one construction statement. Let's just look at the top line, Rex Construction, the one we don't have a contract for, okay?
Yes.
Shows the total contract on Exhibit 27, page 18. Total contract of $549,564, right? I read that correctly?
Yes.
Then it shows prior payments of almost $500,000, correct?
Yes.
Then it shows a draw request for this sub, correct?
Yes.
And then a balance due of $11,081, correct?
Yes.
Obviously, there wasn't any profit built into that, was there?
It doesn't appear to be.
So, we know on that one, there was no profit built in, right?
I would agree.
As you look at these total contracts on Exhibit 27, page 18, can you tell me which of these contracts have profit built in and which don't?
I can't tell you by looking at it.
Do you know if any of them have profit built in?
By looking at it, no.
Go down to the elevators. Is it Cone?
Kone?
There's a total contract of $275,000, correct?
Yes.
In this particular instance, a draw request of a little over $14,000, correct?
Yes.
And then a balance due, right?
Yes.
Balance due to who?
Assuming Kone?
Well, is it due to anyone else?
Wouldn't see how it could be.
Right. If we go through and add up prior payments, draw request subs, and the balance due, it always equals the total contract, right?
Would make sense?
Yeah. That's the way it was prepared, right?
Yes.
And if that's the case, no profit was built in to any contract with it.
Correct.
In each and every instance, except for maybe Rex, the payments to the subcontractors went through the title company. Is that right?
Yes.
And in return for giving them a check, they would get back a mechanics lien waiver, correct?
Yes.
And the check goes to them, and then they keep working, correct?
Yes.
Now, go to the next draw number 3. Page 80, first page. Profit on overhead. How much is built in for profit and overhead there?
0.
0. And then it looks like Rex Construction, their total contract is still the same, right?
I would believe you.
About $550,000, give or take. And they still have a balance due of a little over $11,000, correct?
Correct.
And then, had all the site work been completed pretty much at that point?
I would say yes.
Would you agree with me that if the site work was only, let's say, 60% complete, but they would not have been entitled to all their contract amount yet.
I would agree.
Now let's go to Exhibit 29. I'm just going to stick with Rex for right now, all right? And there's total contract amount, again, stays the same, roughly $550,000, right?
Yes.
And then we show the prior payments that they received, over $500,000, correct?
Yes.
And they still have a balance due of a little over 11 grand. True?
Yes.
And we go to Exhibit 30, Little Rex. I want to draw number 5, true?
Yes.
The contract remains the same, about $550,000, right?
Yes.
Now they have a change. It's gone up by $63,000, almost $64,000, right?
Yes.
Do you remember what caused that?
I really don't know what that was. I know they did some additional work there, but I know we did some work around the back and the wetland delineation. I don't know if that was it.
That would put their contract up around, $613,000 or so, right?
Yes.
All right, let's go to 31, next draw number 6. First page, you there?
Yes.
Now, all of a sudden, their total contract is $388,000 and some, right?
Yes.
That's less than the amount that they've been paid to date. Isn't that true?
That is true.
How could that happen? Did they get money back?
No, they did not.
Was there a profit and overhead figured out?
Yes, there is.
How can you take profit and overhead away from a contract that's already been paid?
We'll have to discuss that with Fifth Third.
Well, who signed it?
Mr. Plank did.
What makes you think that Fifth Third prepared this document?
Anytime we made major changes, it was all due from correspondence with Fifth Third.
Oh, so there should be correspondence making these changes, is what you're saying.
I would think, yes.
Oh, so you're putting it back on Fifth Third that they made the changes, is that right?
Very likely, yes.
Who?
Mary dealt with those ladies.
So you don't know, do you?
I don't know who the lady was.
Did you ever receive an email saying, look, we're changing this total contract amount?
Mary would get that.
I'm asking you, did you get it?
No, I
Did
didn't.
you receive it?
Not unless Mary copied me.
Did you get a copy?
Not that I can recall.
Then how can you say Fifth Third did it?
Because anytime we made big changes, that's where they came from.
Well, you weren't involved, how would you know? How would you know?
I wouldn't know, Mr. Woodward.
Maybe it's a good time to take a short recess.
Sure.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take